Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White, the founder of the Bobby White Foundation.
And I am Bonni Snyder, co-host of Hope in the Light of Suicide. Welcome.
This is our Valentine's edition, and I'm going to say right up front, it might be at points hard to get through, but we're going to do it.
It may challenge.
It'll be good. But first off, I want to thank our producer John and WeBeam TV for allowing us to do this show and bring this information and hopefully some help and resources to you. And a way that you can help us is you can go to our website or click on to Kindest. There we have a web page there that you can click on that QR code right there, and it'll take you directly to the website. And there's multi-levels of donation amounts that you can help us and help support our show. And we would really appreciate that. Like I said, this is our Valentine's edition. And before we get started talking about what we normally talk about, Valentine's Day is an anniversary of many, and for my own co-host as well. But before we got started, I wanted to mention too that February 14th in 2018 was the school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in South Florida. And not only did they lose students and faculty that day, but in 2019, in March, within a week of each other, they lost 2 students to suicide. And so we just want to let all of the people involved in that, friends, family, that not only do we think about what we're going through, but we're thinking about you also.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, I think sometimes we don't always recognize the connection between, when trauma happens and, the cascading effect that can have on certain people. We look at, again, like with, Marjory Stoneman Douglas, that tragedy and, people, moving on because, or I say moving on, finding themselves in a spot where the trauma was so devastating to them that, it's their only way out is, to, take their own lives. It makes me, if we fast forward to, what happened, on January 6th, we had 2 officers.
Right.
From that incident, tragic incident, also take their lives. So I, like you, I'm very blessed that we have this platform to, bring awareness to this, this issue, this situation. It is, some people say it's a difficult situation, it's a difficult topic to talk about. People don't want to address it. It's one of those things that if we can put it in a little compartment or shove it off to a corner, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anymore. But for folks who deal with, the lost survivors, in addition to people who may not have completed, it is not something that some of us can just put in a compartment and sit it on a nice little shelf.
Well, that's absolutely true, and too, even though these events are horrifically tragic to more than just the people immediately involved, survivor's guilt is huge, but it doesn't have to be something as big as Marjory Stoneman,
right, for
those left behind to have survivor's guilt.
Absolutely. And we'll touch on that a little bit in today's episode, the survivor's guilt and how people are navigating through the losses.
Well, like I said, Valentine's Day is coming up, and last week we're blessed to have Carl, Bonnie's son, on, and we were really grateful for him to talk about his experience. Aydin's birthday just passed.
Aiden's birthday was Monday.
So how did everybody do with that?
Oh, Aiden's birthday was, it was a flood of, all of us reflecting on, he would have been 16, and so, I remember, my own, posts on my own social media page and, posts from his mom and, from his siblings that, you would have been 16. For me, if I personalize it for a second, I should have heard you say, Nana, I just got my, I'm going to go get my permit. Or, Kansas, like here in Florida, you can get your driver's license at 16, or hearing him say, Nana, I just took my driver's test. Listening to him asked me, or seeing pictures of him getting ready for prom, seeing, pictures of him, in his, latest archery competition, or, just doing the outdoorsy stuff, that he, loved doing, listening to, him and, he and his sisters debate, or as Carl, pointed out, last week, watching the interaction between he and his baby sister. It's interesting. It was, prior to Bricks, Aydin was the baby. And so, I recall, leading up to his death and, knowing that, he was going to have a younger sibling, that he was perfectly fine giving up the baby status. He had no problems, so he was very excited about being the big brother to, his...
Instead of the baby.
Instead of, not that he didn't mind the baby, being
Right.
the baby, in his, family, his mom, and, her current husband, Nick, they have a child. So, he was really, he was kind of knocked off the baby
Right.
pedestal, with Mikey. So he was, the big brother to Mikey. But, at the same time, being a big brother to a little sister. I think, we all would have loved to see that dynamic. It was hard, for some of us, in terms of, how we were processing what was going on, especially we lost another family member on Sunday, so the day before, Aydin's
Your
birthday.
family has been going through a
a
bad role
It's
lately.
like, God, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but
Stop.
I'm hearing. I was like, am I not listening to you? Not to disrespect anybody who does not, believe in God, but I do.
Well, and Valentine's Day is it's a tough day for all of us that have suffered a significant loss. Valentine's Day has been extremely difficult for me since losing Bobby, but Valentine's Day is actually also the anniversary of Aydin's.
Yes, Aydin's suicide was on Valentine's Day. And as I asked Carl, the question, and we talked about it in terms of how do you see Valentine's Day now? How do you see, not even Valentine's Day, I'm looking at like holidays. One of my other grandchildren, multiple grandchildren, but it's like one of my granddaughters, this is her graduation year. And so as I'm, Nana, are you, coming, to Kansas for my graduate? Of course I'm coming. But, at the same time, it's like she graduates this year. Next year, Aydin would have been graduating, was it the year after? Within the next, year or two,
Right.
Aydin would have been graduating. And so, looking at, Valentine's Day and what that day means to some people. But, for, and I jokingly tell people, I don't worry about it. I'm single. I don't worry about Valentine's Day. I don't, it's like, I'll buy myself a box of chocolate. But, but all joking aside, knowing that, it's etched in my mind, that moment, hearing Carl's voice on the phone, saying, Mom, he's gone, Aydin's dead. I don't think I'll ever unhear that.
No.
But at the same time, trying not to take away from the meaning that we put behind, celebrations and holidays and whatnot. Like Christmas, for instance. What were the Christmas traditions that we used to have? Well, the Christmas tradition has changed a little bit because, our loved ones aren't here. What is the significance? What would we have been, what would we have done Monday on his birthday? I was talking to his sister, Raven, this weekend. She was, understandably, struggling a little bit, like, you should be here. I should be, you should be, being a pain in my butt. You should be, doing, all these things, but you're not. And, listening to her organize a get-together for the family at, what are they doing? What did I understand that they're doing? Like an escape room.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's what I find, it's a way for us to not, well, let's put these traditions, on a shelf. We can't do those anymore because they're not here. Like Carl said, I can't go to, that arcade where he went for his first, for his birthday 2 years ago. So let's create, a new place to go. Or let's create a new, the family.
Well, and you can keep some of those traditions that aren't so hard to to go through. I do that. I mean, it's usually by myself, but I do things that Bobby and I would have done, together, which I mean isn't like a really big deal. Like, Thanksgiving, I still will cook a Thanksgiving dinner. It's just smaller. I do the same things that we would have done. Valentine's Day, we didn't really do a lot. We give each other really nice cards and cook a really nice, usually a steak dinner. And actually, one of the last things I got from him was a really nice Valentine's Day card, and it was the last card that he gave me. And me not even knowing that less than 2 months later, he would be gone. And I've kept like almost all of the cards that we have given each other, mostly the ones that he gave me, 'cause a lot of times, and mostly on our anniversary, we would give each other silly cards and serious cards. And I cannot tell you how many times we both gave each other the same card.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we would just laugh. It's like, I can't believe you did it. We did it again, with the same card. But that was the last thing he gave me, and it's a beautiful card. I mean, even when I read it the first time, I had tears in my eyes, and now I just cry.
Right.
But and I'll probably do the same thing. Is I'll just cook a dinner and kind of pretend he's there with me, and which I know he is in my heart, and we can still do some of those things. But,
Oh, absolutely.
But there's some things that I can't do. There's a restaurant I can't go to.
Right.
We had a breakfast place, Hilltop Cafe, that it's within walking distance of my house, and I can't go there. I tried, and I went there once with my brother and sister-in-law. It was lunchtime, so that wasn't too bad. But I tried to go to breakfast there on my own, I lost it. I barely got through the meal, and I had to leave. I couldn't do it, and I haven't been able to go back.
I asked myself, the same thing. Can I go to, I think back to, it was it was Mother's Day. We had, I had my daughter and Patrick and, all of the kids, the children. And, Patrick's, then girlfriend at the time. We all went out to eat. And I, of course, I don't want to say save, not having the opportunity to go back there because of COVID. It's not, that's my favorite picture of Aydin. Oh my
It's a
gosh.
good picture of you guys.
Yeah, that, I detracted there, kind of an aside. That was the last picture I ever took with Aydin. I was there that was for his Ravens graduation. And little did I know, the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
little did I know that, almost a year later, that was in, May, June, little did I know that the following year after that picture was taken, he'd be gone. But no, going back, to restaurants, we, went to this, restaurant for, dinner. It was a family dinner. We had, a room in the back because, there were like 12 of us, eating that day. Unfortunately, the restaurant is on hiatus right now, because of COVID.
Right.
And it's one of my favorite places. I don't know how I would feel walking back in, knowing that that was one of the last places that I had, Patrick was with us when we celebrated. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I was surprised at my reaction to it, to going to that restaurant. 'Cause we didn't really go out and eat a lot. Because we just kind of figured we cook better than most restaurants, But this restaurant we ordered the same thing pretty much, one of two things, their omelets, and they had great omelets, and that's all we would order every time. We'd flip them, every once in a while, but they have great breakfast and great omelets, but. I was surprised at my reaction when I went back there, and I that was probably a couple of years ago, and I just can't bring myself to do it.
I think what happens is, when we find ourselves back in those, familiar places, or those, reliving a memory. We go in, I want to say oftentimes with no expectations.
Right.
It's like we don't think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going here because this is the last
Right.
place that I was
Yeah,
with.
no, you don't think about it.
It is, oh, I really like this restaurant, we're talking restaurant, and, they really have good food and I want to go in. And, subconsciously, our brain is processing. This is where I went to eat with, in your case, Bobby. This is where I went to eat with, Patrick. This is the place, whenever, whenever I go back, to the Midwest, this is the place that, the grandchildren and I always get together, and eat, dinner or, breakfast or whatnot. And then it hits us.
Well, and the longer you sit there, as time goes, and you're going through the motions of it, it starts to build.
Yeah, it's almost.
That's what it did for me. It just started to build, and the anxiety. I took the newspaper. We always would have the newspaper there. I thought, well, it'll be a good distraction. I can read the newspaper and blah blah blah. But it just, and I think it was more subconsciously, not, thinking, and it was just, it just kept building and then kept building, and then finally I was like, I really need my check. I can't do this, And
Yeah, it's almost like, that realization, that, here, I'm ordering my meal, and, my next, thought or, action would be, and what are you,
Right.
wait a minute, you're not here for me to ask, what are you eating, and it's like, what do you eat? You're not eating. Or, when we talked about holidays, for instance, like one of the traditions in our house for Thanksgiving, there's certain things that get made, it's like, this is an absolute, Thanksgiving is not Thanksgiving without this thing. And Patrick used to make deviled eggs, and, Patrick, Patrick's famous deviled eggs. And I find myself, since then. I mean, I made them when he was, before he passed. But as I'm making them, I would always, shout around the corner, Pat, come here and make sure that I'm doing this right. Hey Pat, guide me through, because I want these to taste like when you make them. And now, I find myself sometimes as I'm, shelling the eggs and making, I'm like, help me through this. Shortly before he died, I love lasagna, and it's a tradition, with my family. If I go visit them or they come visit me, I have to make lasagna. Like the kids, the grandchildren will tell their friends, you haven't lived until you've had Nana's lasagna. Kind of thing. I mean, thank you for that compliment. However, Patrick had gotten a recipe. I don't know whether it was a recipe he made of himself. I don't know where this recipe came from. But anyway, he made lasagna, and he came out and goes, "Hey, Mom, I made lasagna." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, trying to give me some competition here. And he was like, "Oh, just try something, try a different version of lasagna." I was like, "Okay." And I, of course, got a serving. I had to look at him, dude. So that's kind of where I go, dude. This is some real good lasagna. And, so I looked at him, I was like, you have to show me how you made this, because, I actually, different, like I said, completely different recipe from mine. But it was some amazing lasagna. Like, I would, call, the kids, and I was like, Uncle Pat made lasagna. I was like, he's giving Nana a run for her money. And they were like, no, Nana, nobody can be lasagna. But anyway, after he died, my brain was processing. He never showed me how to make that lasagna. I don't know how he made that lasagna. And as I'm going through, his things, and, Patrick wrote a lot, and I tell myself, one day I want to take his writings and fuse them with some of my own into a book. But I happened to be, looking through one of his books, and, a little tiny notebook, and there's this recipe, and, he, captioned it, banging lasagna, or, slamming lasagna, or banging, and banging was his word for this is awesome lasagna, but it was like banging lasagna. And I'm looking at it, and there was this recipe for this lasagna, and I'm like, oh my God. He left me the recipe. But I haven't brought myself to make
it, yeah.
No.
Well, in time, my husband, for the holidays, mostly like for Thanksgiving, he had this recipe for stuffing. Mm. And it was actually like a combination of two recipes that he made into his own. We loved, I don't know if you remember, the Frugal Gourmet. Mm-hmm. Okay. When Bobby first got into cooking many years ago, he was his favorite, and I think we have almost every single one of his books. And one of them is the Christmas holiday book. And so he took like two recipes and made it into one. And so the first year that he was gone, and we were having Thanksgiving, so I said, well, I think, I have everything to do Bobby's stuffing recipe. And he has in the book. Then the book is like falling apart, but he has his notes because we had such a big family. He had to, I think we doubled the recipe or tripled the recipe. So in the book were his notes in his handwriting of exactly how much of what to buy, what to purchase, and how he kind of did things. And so I took the original shopping, and he wrote on their shopping list, and I made a copy of it because I wasn't taking the original to the grocery store with me.
Excuse me.
And so I've made Bobby's stuffing every holidays that I've been here since then for our family, because it's just for me and for them, it's like it's not the holiday without Bobby stuffing. We don't have Bobby, and unless they're lying to me, I pretty much hit the nail on the head most of the time, and it brings up happy memories, for them. And on Thanksgiving morning, we would he would usually fix me like a little egg sandwich, and I'd watch the Thanksgiving Day parade while he was making his stuffing. And so now I watch the Thanksgiving Day parade and make his stuffing.
I think it's important for, anyone who is a loss survivor, whether it be, suicide or, just a natural death, to develop ways to keep those traditions and memories alive. Whether it be making Bobby stuffing and making Patrick's deviled eggs. One of these days I will, pick up this little notebook and, figure out if I can make his banging lasagna. Every once in a while, the memories will, pop up, on my social media feed. Patrick had this thing where he loved bathrobes, the real fluffy terry cloth, kind of bathrobes. So much so that, he would go out in public and wear these bathrobes out in public, like some people would wear, a blazer, or a shirt. And I was, the other day I'm, sitting at home and, I'm looking through my social media, and he did a video clip of, himself in one of his robes. And as I'm looking at this clip, of course I'm smiling, because, I get to hear his voice and, see his, antics. And at the same time, it's like, why does it seem that, every day is a new memory of him? All of the memories that could pop up, it's always him. And, it's, in his, typical, comedic fashion, he's walking through the house and he's like, hello, it's your boy. And, of course I'm smiling as that was his, like, hey mom, your boy's home. But you can hear me in the background. What time do you have to go to work? I think I was talking, the next day. What time do you work tomorrow? And, we'd hear him say, oh, I don't know, it's 8 o'clock. But anyway, he goes through and he's like, you guys thought I was kidding. But I'm about that robe life. And he, does the robe like this. And, he's, talking about, his beard. He was like, this beard is crucial. I still need a cut, but the beard is crucial, and I am about this robe.
Oh.
And, so, when we're talking about, how do we navigate through, holidays and, anniversaries and whatnot, it's remembering things like that. This morning, my sister, she tagged me to something, and she was talking about how she missed the conversations that she and Patrick had. Patrick's nickname for her was Anti-Glamorous. And he was like, anything glamorous. And, she would say, I love you. He says, I love you more. And then, they would go back and forth, or, she would say, I love you more. And he was like, I love you the mostest. Or she would respond back, and, his thing was, whatever helps you sleep at night, I love you more. But if that's what helps you sleep at night, that's, you just go with that. And again, when we're talking about how do we navigate through, these anniversaries and whatnot, it's having things like that, not putting, those memories and traditions in a box or in a compartment and shutting the lid.
Yeah, no, you can't. You can't do that. You just can't. I came after I did kind of our semi-outline for our show, I came across a photo of Bobby and I together, and I was going to send it in late so that we could have it, but then I was like, I couldn't do it because I think if I saw it up there, I don't know if I could have done the rest of the show or not. So I was like, we'll hold this one back for another time, But yeah, one year for Christmas, Bobby also he called it his dipping sauce, and everybody loves it. And so I made it one year for everybody for Christmas after Bobby passed, and I think the next year or the year after that, for Christmas, everybody got a copy of the recipe in Bobby's handwriting. And then the following year, our nephew, he made the dipping sauce for everybody for Christmas. And I think I just used the last of mine up a couple months ago, so it's now got to go back and make the dipping sauce. But it's when you do things like that, I mean, it's the memory of them, and sometimes it's hard as you're going through that process. But then when you do it, and I talk to him all the time when I'm doing stuff like that. It's like, okay, am I doing this right, or did I put too much of this in? Okay, did I do okay? What do you think? And actually, I was kind of thinking that you might make it and put the foundation logo on the jars.
That would be nice.
One of our nephews, and it was kind of funny as time went on, as he made this throughout the years. Because Bobby liked barbecuing and smoking, meats and stuff also. And that's initially what the sauce was supposed to be for. And then the kids found out it's really good on macaroni and cheese. And, I mean, you can put it on just about anything. But macaroni and cheese was one of our nephew's favorite things to put it on also. But, yeah, doing things like that is, it's hard, but it's comforting, too, at the same time.
Yes, I mean, it's, I loved Carl's analogy, when we were talking about this thing, like, closure, what does that look like? And, I'm sure it's something, we've talked about, the ball in the box, and, the ball gets smaller, but never really goes away. And, I found that very, profound and telling, because, and as we use this as a segue into our next Survivors Bill of Rights. As we learn to live this new normal, whatever normal is, without our loved one, not feeling, like understanding that there are times where guilt is going to present itself because, there are these times where, we're doing something and we're laughing and, we think, oh my gosh, if I'm laughing, does that mean that you don't exist anymore? If I'm okay, does that mean that, you not being here anymore is insignificant? And it's, why I, embrace, these, bills of rights because, they are so.
Well, and that is exactly what is in Dr. Wolfelt's, the third Bill of Rights, From the Wilderness of Suicide, Grief, Finding Your Way. Dr. Wolfelt's Center for Life and Loss Transition. The third one is, I have the right to feel a multitude of emotions: confusion, disorientation, fear, shame, anger, and guilt are just a few of the emotions I might feel as a part of my grief journey. Others may try to tell me that what I do feel is wrong, but I know that my feelings aren't right or wrong. They just are.
And always, question people, when there's an attempt to insist that a certain emotion is quote unquote right or wrong. To include the person who's experiencing that emotion. I tell people, on a constant basis, your emotions are your emotions, and I think we've said this, multiple times here. We're human, we're hardwired for emotion. What we feel and how we feel it is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's ours. It is applicable, to ourselves and what we are processing at the time. Now, granted, I know that there are times that the emotion may seem incongruent with what's going on. Like, for instance, and again, I'll use Patrick. Patrick's way of dealing with, tragedy and, trauma was to laugh. He made a joke out of it. And, some people, would look at that as, oh my God, he's such an uncaring, unfeeling person. He's such a, fill in the blank. How dare he? Unfortunately, it led to a breakup, between he and this young. I love this girl to this day, and I still tell her, you should be my daughter-in-law. Or I will always think of you like that, like you should have married Pat. But anyway, it wasn't until later on that there was a revelation or an understanding that sometimes what and how we're processing may not look like we think it's normal. So someone may have looked at, again, using Patrick, somebody looked at Patrick and said, this is not a laughing matter. Until they recognized if he's laughing over something tragic, he's really in pain. Like where some of us,
Right.
we may do the little, sniffle, or, the full on, I'm crying buckets over, whatever the tragedy is. Patrick, it is, it's either a little chuckle, light laugh to, he's, full on comedic mode. That for him was how he coped.
Yeah, and that's understandable. But if you think about it, a lot of times when somebody has passed, say, at the wake or at the funeral, people who get up and speak about that person speak about funny things,
Yes.
or they often joke, and it lightens people up, and not to say that they're not sad,
Right.
but I mean that happens all the time, and,
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've ever attended one service where something it wasn't, and it's not that it's. I was going to say making light of the situation, and it's not, but it's bringing in just a teeny bit of happiness or joy, even though that person is gone, and remembering something happier, funnier.
Well, if you think about it now, when we're talking, when we're planning service, of course, as a mom, both for myself and I think of Kira, as a mother, we don't think ever
No.
that we are going to plan the service of our children.
No.
And I remember as I was, processing, I'm really planning my child's, funeral. And, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Hey, things happen. That's what makes us real.
Yeah, really. I'm like, oops. I questioned certain aspects of, his service. Like, was I going to speak? Was it appropriate? And all I could think of was I could remember hearing Patrick's voice in my head. Don't worry about that. A little more colorful language. Don't worry about them, Mom. Do what is right for you. Do what is natural for you. Do what is do you. Basically, was his phrase.
Right.
You do you. And so I remember, it's like we've gotten away from, calling it a funeral to celebration of life.
Right.
And, so I remember at, Pat's service when I was thinking about, as I'm processing this multitude, this emotions, it's like, dealing with my, I'm at the service for my, this is my child that we're honoring. And, I've got, family members from out of town and, friends that, dropped everything that they're doing to, come and support, me and the family. And I found myself putting on one of Patrick's robes, over, the dress that I was wearing. And, his other, signature piece was the aviator glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember, putting on the aviator glasses, and, coupling that with one of Patrick's favorite phrases was straight cheese. Like, something was true or, he meant that. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I won this video game, straight cheese, it was, and because I never really understood what does straight cheese mean. But I had a cheese stick, so here I am speaking at my son's funeral in, one of his bathrobes, with a pair of his aviator glasses, in my hand, and this cheese, whenever we go to the store in the morning, Mom, do you want anything? Yeah, I need a banana and a cheese stick. That's kind of that's my morning breakfast thing. But then later on, where I'm like celebrating my son and, trying to get through this service, I found myself like, wow, should I have done that? That guilt, rushed in. Patrick was, say this, cremated. And I found myself like, oh my gosh, did I do the right thing? Is that what he would have wanted? And then, taking a step back, and then of course that, mental health side of me kicks in. It's like, Bonnie, of course it's allow the process. But Bonnie, this is normal. It's okay. I love this. And again, I love these bills of rights. You have a right to feel what you feel.
Yeah.
You have a right, to understand that it is a it is a multitude of emotions that you are going to experience. It's important while they're happening to allow them to happen, and at the same time, keeping, in, your little, database there. By the way, these emotions are going to happen sometimes when you least expect it.
And it may be years down the road.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lifetime process.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Here in a few months, it'll be 5 years since we lost Bobby, and in some ways, it still feels like yesterday, and in a lot of ways, it's like I can't believe that. Where did the 5 years go?
Mm-hmm.
but then in the same voice, I'm like, where did the 30 years prior to that go?
Right.
You know, that just is like, and that was a recent thought that I had just a couple months ago, realizing, you know, we're coming up on that 5th year, and it's like, what has happened during that time?
Right.
You know, I don't think a lot has happened, but then I have people in my ears, Tammy, look what you've done, you know, with this in that time. And I have to be reminded of that because I don't process it that way. And but it's where did that time go? Where did the 30 years we had prior to that go? So yeah, time is way shorter than what we think.
Oh, it is. You know, like I find myself, you know, granted, you know, for us, it's coming up on this 2nd anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. You know, it's like it's really been 2 years. It doesn't seem like 2 years. It seems like yesterday. You know, especially with Aydin. You know, and again, as I was talking to his sister, you know, this weekend, I said to her, had I known that moving to Florida was going to mean certain things, you know, I wonder if I would have moved to Florida. And, you know, I just remember her, you know, like, you know, yeah, Nana, you know, joking but not joking, you know, yeah, Nana, about you being in Florida. That's, you know, that's. And I'm like, you know, like, I'm not liking this idea. Like, none of us like this idea that you know, I'm thinking, wow. You know, at the same time, you know, I look at, you know, memories and celebrations and, you know, watching Aydin from, you know, he was 4, you know, when I moved here. You know, so that 10 years between age 4 when I first, you know, moved here to age 14 when we lost him. You know, I look at, you know, there's a couple of times, you know, he's come here to visit, you know, he's, you know, spend some summer times, or, you know, I would go back to the Midwest, you know, and be able to see them. At the same time, you know, I find myself, you know, again, going back to this multitude of emotions, feeling, you know, feelings of joy and happiness, you know, because I had all of these memories, you know, him, you know, Nana, what can I help you with? You know, you can, you know, you're on vacation, you know, you can go play, you know, the video game, or, you know, relax, you're on vacation, and then I will, you know, they're playing the game, what can I help you with? It's the kind of soul he was. At the same time, feeling a little anger, because there were so many memories, celebrations, experiences that I was not a part of because I was here, or he could not, you know, he couldn't come here, I couldn't, you know, go there.
Are you? I don't. It made me think of something. Are you familiar with Garth Brooks' song "The Dance"?
Yes, I love Garth Brooks.
Okay. Had I had known.
No.
I can't do that. Let's go to the 4th. You want to read that one? Because I can't. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
4th, Bill of Right. I have the right to work through any feelings of guilt and relinquish responsibility. I may feel guilty about the death, even though in no way it was my fault. I must come to acknowledge that the only person that was truly responsible was the person who took his or her own life. Still, I must feel and explore any possible feelings I may have, or feelings of guilt I may have, in order to move beyond them. That one really resonates with me. Because, you know, again, you know, if I reflect back to the conversation I was having with Raven this weekend, And I talked to her. I was like, hey, you want to come on and share your experience? And she was not. I don't think, and I want to say it's because she blocks out a lot, or she does things to not focus on the fact that her little brother is gone. She's in college, and she's like, I'm doing grown, adult stuff kind of thing. But as I was talking to her, listening to her process, I'm this is Kira's children. She's Carl's second oldest, Kira's oldest. But it's she's talking about I was his big sister. I should have seen these signs. I should have been there for him. All of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, what ifs, and that feeling of guilt that she did not save him. And walking her through that, it's like she processes it on this level. I get it. I could not save them. We all missed the signs. None of us saw this coming. She also has her thoughts over what really happened. Was it really a suicide? Was it? Because as you heard Carl say last week. He took a picture of himself in the process of ending his life and sent it to his girlfriend. And some of us are, thinking, was he trying to scare her? Or was he trying to, they were in the throes of a breakup. Was this a stupid teenage thing, to avert the breakup? And he was not able to call for help.
It went too far.
But
well, and I remember several years ago, this thing that a lot of teenagers were trying to get to make themselves pass out by
auto-asphyxiation. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of kids lost their life
because it went too far.
It
went too far. But along with the bills of rights and resources like Dr. Wolfelt's book, we have our purple folder.
Yes, we do. And when we updated the purple folder, we updated it so that we have resources, national resources too. But most of the information in here is how to look for warning signs and risk factors, how to cope and deal with children who are also left behind, and how to help survivors. When to even ask for help yourself. There's a lot of information in here, and you can contact the foundation. And if you're not local to Pasco County, we would be happy to mail one out to you. A lot of work went into this, and we were very fortunate with the first printing of it to have it grant funded, but that grant funding is done, and so now it's the one of the sole programs and missions for the Bobby White Foundation. We have a lot of things on the table that we really want to bring to you in the future. So there's several ways to give. Actually, with Valentine's Day, it might be kind of close right now, but if you want to buy something for a loved one on Amazon, choose the Bobby White Foundation as your charity of choice. They have a little campaign going on right now for giving. We also, on Amazon, the foundation has a wish list, so even if you're not going to buy anything, but you want to donate, and maybe you want to donate something specific, you can check out our wish list on Amazon. And
How many of us use Amazon?
well, especially now.
You know, it's a way to give without realizing that you're giving.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and it's it's a good program, but I mean, there's several options. Facebook, for your birthday, you can do a fundraiser for your birthday and support the Bobby White Foundation.
Absolutely.
So I hope that your Valentine's Day is a good one, as best as could be.
It will be.
And
I'm sure it will be.
mine will be too. Remember, if you or someone you know are in crisis, please reach out. You're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that want to help you. If it's imminent, there's always 911.
Mm-hmm.
But be there to support each other, love each other, be kind, especially during these times. Do you have any parting word?
Just like you said, reach out. Someone is right there. And as we say as we close, there's always hope.